Hey, my name is Nicole Duelli, and I'm here today with Canadians for Homeopathy to answer another Ask the Homeopath question. And today, this question is really timely because we're talking about croup, which happens in kids in the fall. And we happen to be in a beautiful fall with the leaves falling, the evenings getting colder. And that's when kids tend to get the colds, the coughs, and the croup. Luckily, in homeopathy, we have just a handful of really great remedies that help with croup. And so today I'm going to just walk you through those particular remedies. Okay, now, croup, I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, but if you've never had a child or seen a child with croup before, you can count yourself lucky because it can be kind of a frightening experience for a parent. Typically, the child is well during the day and then all of a sudden wakes up in the middle of the night or maybe early in the evening, an hour or two after falling asleep, and has this terrible barking cough. The cough is often accompanied by a bit of wheezing. The child is frightened, trying to get a breath in through that wheezing sound, the whistling sound. And as I said, it can be quite frightening for the parent and the child. Now, of course, if your child, has serious trouble breathing or the lips turn blue, of course, go to emergency. But croup is rarely dangerous in itself and usually resolves fairly easily. Now, the first thing I do as a parent is I take the child, I go to the washroom, turn on the hot shower, and let that steam fill the room. And just the steam of the hot shower actually helps open up the respiratory passages so that the child breathes a little bit easier, the cough is a little less, and then you can think enough as a parent to pick your homeopathic remedy because, as you know, in homeopathy, there's not one remedy for croup or for anything for that matter. It's always chosen according to the symptoms that you or your child experiences. So today I am going to share with you three remedies that work really, really well for croup. In fact, these remedies go way back to a very well-known homeopath 150 years ago, Dr. Boeninghausen, who was Dr. Hahnemann, the founder of homeopathy's contemporary. And he treated over 400 cases of croup very successfully with homeopathic remedies. And he said basically, you only need three remedies, except in really rare cases, then you might need an extra one. And that's been my experience as well. I haven't treated that many cases of croup, but certainly my experience has been that one of these three remedies really resolves the issue fairly quickly and helps the body recover quickly from croup. Okay, what are those three remedies? So, aconite, um, aconite, spongia, and Hepar sulph. So I also wanted to share with you the full names because in homeopathy, the Latin names can be a bit long-winded. So the full name for aconite, maybe you know already, is Aconitum napellis. When you pick up a remedy, that's what it's going to be called. Spongia is Spongia tosta, pretty similar. And then Hepar sulph is Hepar sulphuris calcareum. Those are the three remedies I'm going to talk about today. And I want to start with the first two. So aconite is often the first remedy. Maybe you've heard me talking about aconite before. It's a great remedy for cold, exposure, so illness after exposure to really cold weather. If there's a cold wind and a child or even an adult comes down with a cold or a cough, a fever after that, aconite's your bet. So aconite is a very sudden and highly inflammatory type situation. That's when you want to give aconite. And in this case, aconite and spongia, the sound of the croup will sound very similar. The barking cough, the waking in the middle of the night. Aconite is often for kids who have a lot of vitality. So they might seem really well during the day. And then all of a sudden, they'll wake up in the middle of the night, often the early part of the night, maybe 9, 10, or 11, and end up with this very inflammatory, loud, croupy cough, barking cough, and they might have a fever. In any case, it's an intense situation. Aconite is always so intense, and there might be a lot of like fright involved in the middle of the night for this child as well. So that's aconite. Spongia is very, very similar, has a lot of dryness as well, like aconite. Spongia, it has a bit of a seal's bark. That's like a saw going through wood. That's how the old homeopaths describe it. Very, very dry cough remedy. And oh, one thing I forgot to mention is croup typically happens for children under 5 years old. Why is that? It's because the respiratory passages are quite small still. And so croup affects the larynx or the voice box. And so this small air passageway, when it gets inflamed and swollen, it causes this wheezing sound. So when children are over 5 years old, typically they'll get the barking cough and you may need the same remedies, but you will not get that typical croup wheezing, high whistling sound from inspiring, from breathing in. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. Now, getting back to aconite and spongia and Hepar sulph, think of aconite if it's after exposure to very cold weather. And if there's a fever, definitely also go with aconite. If those factors are not there, my tendency living in Vancouver, where it's not really that cold compared to the rest of Canada, is to go directly to Spongia. However, if you're not sure, always start with aconite. If you feel like it might be a good fit, it's a great first remedy. And then you can always switch over to Spongia if you're not seeing that instant result. Like by instant, I mean within a few minutes. The child should be able to fall back asleep again. Okay, spongia is like that saw going through wood, that hoarse barking cough. If it's an older child who doesn't have croup anymore, that you'll find that sucking on candy or drinking warm liquids really helps soothe the throat and helps that cough. Spongia is for those really tickly, dry coughs that are right there in the larynx. They're a bit hoarse, a bit barky, and very, very dry and irritated, constantly irritated. Okay, so going back to croup, think of Spongia when the child wakes up maybe closer to midnight, maybe 11, 12 a.m. and or 11 p.m., 12 a.m. And same similar symptoms as aconite. There can be that wheezing and just basically the same sounding cough as aconite. Now for Hepar sulph, it's very, very different. Hepar sulph is a great remedy for exposure to cold weather, but the symptoms develop very slowly. So this cough is going to be more towards morning. The child might wake up at 5 a.m. And typically, in my experience, it's later on. It might be for the second night or the third night, although Dr. Boeninghausen does talk about it for croup in the first night. In this case, Hepar sulph is for coughs that are just a little bit looser, but you've still got that barking, loud cough, and there might even be a bit of rattling with the wheezing. Okay, so very different kind of set of symptoms. Hepar sulph is also very sensitive to cold often, so the child will be wanting to be bundled up even more than maybe spongia or aconite. Okay, if you're at all familiar with homeopathy, you'll know that you always have to pick the remedy according to the symptoms that the child experiences. So be sure to use one of those remedies according to the symptoms that fit. And the better the fit, the better the remedy is going to work. The great thing in an acute situation like a cough is you can see the remedies work very quickly. The child will fall asleep, they'll feel better, they'll be better by morning. If it's an aconite situation, sometimes you can just give the remedy and all of a sudden they're much, much better the next day. If it's like more a Spongia or a Hepar self situation, then you might find that you will have to repeat the remedy. But overall, I find that giving homeopathic remedies, often there is no croup the next night. It might develop into a bit of a cough, but for sure the child is already feeling better and sleeping a little bit better. Now, another question I always get is about dose and potency. And first of all, let me just say, just use whatever you have in the house, right? I mean, that's the main thing. But mostly I find the 30 CH potency is widely available. So, and it works quite fast in an acute situation. So that would be my first choice. If the child is very young, you might want to put the pellets in a little bit of water, like a quarter cup water, dissolve it, give a teaspoon, and you can repeat that quite frequently, always stirring before you give it to slightly alter the potency. Okay, I wouldn't wake the child. If the child is sleeping, let the child sleep. You can always repeat the remedy if they do happen to wake up again with another cough. So hopefully you understand the differences between aconite, Spongia, and Hepar sulph. I've used these remedies a lot. They're just wonderful remedies to help the body heal itself. Really, all homeopathy does is it spurs on the body's own healing. So it's really the body that has this remarkable healing, and the homeopathy is just the helper. If you like what we do here at Canadians for Homeopathy, please support us. We depend on your donations. Right now, we're having a subscription drive week. And for as little as $6 a month or $60 a year, you can subscribe and support us, as well as gaining access to past webinars and also getting some discounts on courses and products. Plus, you help spread the word of homeopathy and the love of homeopathy as we do. We're volunteers here at Canadians for Homeopathy, but nonetheless, in order to run things, we do need your support. So if you like what we do here, please join us. Hopefully, you've enjoyed the information that I've offered you today. If you have any questions, please ask the homeopath, and I would love to answer it for you. Good night.